Hello, and welcome to this special edition of the ILEETA Learning Lab. I'm Joe Willis, the Deputy Executive Director for ILEETA, and we're doing a special series of Learning Lab interviews with instructors who will be at the 2016, it's the 2026 conference. I went back in time for a second. The 2026 conference in St. Louis, March 16th through the 21st. And today, I'm here with Josh Leheny. Now, he's a Team One Network instructor who specializes in the simulation and instructor development. And today, we're going to talk about his course called Beyond the Branches, Expanding How We Use Simulators in Reality-Based Training, RBT. So without any further ado, Josh, I'm going to kick it straight over to you. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell me a little bit about this course, what we're going to learn, and equally important, how did it come to be?
Thanks for having me first, Joe, and I appreciate everybody's time. So Beyond the Branches is actually kind of something that just naturally happened from my upbringing in law enforcement. I started off in a middle-sized agency in Palm Beach County. It was city of Green Acres. SWAT guy, operations, step-up supervisor. You jack of all trades. You know, when you come into those medium-sized, smaller-sized agencies. Eventually made my way more into training, took over training. We had like the old FAT system that we could borrow from the sheriff's office, or, you know, we would find like videos and find ways of like, all right, well, here's a video, but how can we make it kind of more realistic for us? And, you know, we've done them in lineups. We've done them in roll calls where you may show a video, let everybody talk about the topic of the video, and then you slam it in another direction to kind of break them out of the silo, so to speak. What naturally happened for me was, my background was in reality-based training, finding ways to do a lot with a little. And I ended up merging with the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office and went over to their training division. Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, large agency, a lot of equipment. Our boss is phenomenal. So here I am with a brand new simulator. It was a TI simulator at the time, back in 2016, going back in time. Yeah. At my disposal. That was a great segue. Great segue, by the way, Joe. But you know, I was the new guy, so they kind of threw me at it. And one of the problems that I saw from even 2016 is you have these old school trainers and guys that have been around for a while. Like every other cop, we find the shortcomings of the system, right? Oh, there's too much quiet time. This is BS. Like, you know, oh, this is a video screen. It's not realistic enough. And a lot of the shortcomings, if you have a little creativity, you can actually overcome them. You know, you could bust through silos. You know, even if you're in an active shooter scenario where it's too, you know, it's too short. There's not enough video time of cutting a pie or doing this, doing that. Well, you can, you know, go beyond the branches, so to speak. And before you hit play, make them start outside and actually cut the pie. As soon as you see them do good cutting the pie, you start the scenario. So you know, it wasn't anything crazy. It was just ingenuity of me and other instructors, but I always seemed to be one of the guys that would push it. Because again, with an agency that was 1,600 sworn, really tough to do a lot of RBT. And we did, but again, it's like we would joke, it was like Groundhog Day. You're doing for months, another 30, another 30, another 30. Well, we were pressed to find ways of getting as much reps in as we could. So we had to blend simunition, you know, force on force, paint marking cartridges, as well as the simulator to get as many reps for our people as we could. And that's how this class kind of birthed itself, was as a corporal. I built a lot of it. When I moved from corporal to sergeant, we were responsible for building our Major Stoneman Douglas Guardian program for the sheriff's office. Again, it was required by state statute. We had to do simulation as well as RBT. We found a way to blend it both because, again, the state would define we need X amount of hours. So let's just say 8 on the video, or we need 8 with force on force. Well, why don't I blend both and I get 16 hours of RBT training? My bosses were great because they gave us extra time. So we found ways to make the most out of it. But a lot of it came from finding ways of, I talk about it in the class, going beyond the blank screen. You think about every one of those videos for anyone that's done simulator training, and it doesn't matter what simulator, by the way, whether you're TI, Milo, VR armed, you're talking about the new VR systems that are out there. There's a point in time where it's hard for you to go and finish the whole call out. Well, it takes a little ingenuity, and you can do that. If you're doing de-escalation, big talking topic right now, right? Some of your branch scenarios on those flat screens don't allow for enough time to talk. So we talk about in the class the tactical use of the pause button. Hit pause, and you as the instructor do that. You were going to say something?
Let's talk about this just real quick and kind of take a couple steps backwards, because you mentioned a couple of really important things when it comes to RBT and simulation, the synthetic training environment. So for those not familiar with how simulators work, let's talk first about the blank screen.
Sure.
Define that. What is that?
Really comes into play with your flat range video simulators, but it works in VR too, unless you have the ability to continue to control the world beyond what your scripted scenario is. So the idea is, and for anyone that's been through some of these, you have that scenario, you have a set number of options that you can throw at an officer. They take those options, you've reached the end, and suddenly the screen goes black. Right. Usually the screen goes black after you've developed some use of force decision. The problem is if that use of force decision is taking a baton out, and there are simulators that would allow you to hit a button, the person gets hit by a baton, they fall to the ground. Not totally the most realistic, and that's usually where your complaints come from your students. Well, how can you make that more real? If it were a flat screen, literally tell them to pause, turn, have them face you for a second, have them explain to you, why did you make the decision that you made, using good active debriefs. We talk about it in the class, just like we need to for any RBT. But then when they turn around and mentally they're thinking it's over, right? You're already priming them that the training's done, it's the same dumb video screen. But then when they turn back around, you never said index, and now you have somebody in Redman. If you really want to spook them, put them in Redman. It doesn't have to be a full Redman gear, and actually make them do handcuffing, make them call in on the radio, whatever you want. You can break them off of that silo that's created sometimes naturally based off of the way that the simulators are built, unfortunately.
Yeah. Finish it out. And I think that's one of the key takeaways when I read your description early on during the selection process that really stood out to me was there's a lot of times we do an early index, right? In a stop scenario, and all of the stuff that is the finalizing the handcuffing, the actually transporting the person to somewhere, medical treatment, calling on the radio, that's often left out and left 100. To experience to train. And so there's that. And then let's talk quickly about the branches. And I think it's intuitive. A lot of people are probably just already picking up on that. But from your perspective, as somebody who's done a lot of this, tell us about branching and what it actually means in that synthetic training environment.
So, and there's a unique thing that's happening in the world now because we all love AI. So you're starting to see AI incorporated, and it is somewhat intuitive. As the instructor, you have the option to go and select, sometimes based off the system, where you want this to go. Like one of the best ones that stand out in my mind is you're clearing a warehouse and it's a low light scenario, which you can make bright, but low light's a big thing. You turn down the lights, everybody gets scared. Oh my God. That was a big thing for our simulator because it was IR based. So it reacted to flashlights. You had an option of a person arguing and quickly showing their hands, like in a give up fashion, usually elicited a use of force to include deadly force. They would come and pull out a gun. They would pull out their ID very quick. They could slowly bring their hands up, or they would, in the same fashion as the gun, pull out a stapler. And it allowed you to work debriefs, but it also allowed you to talk through different options that you could run. And there's different ways that you could run that. You can run that one person at a time. A lot of times it became that you're never going to win thing. But the problem is that sometimes they didn't allow for enough branches. So how do you expand from that? It could be doing something as simple as putting a piece of cardboard so that they can move the cover and realize, well, wait a second, I don't need to pull my gun anymore. Or if I need to pull my gun, I can move the cover, and now I have a little bit more time to think, depending on the scenario. On the VR side, I'm seeing it a lot more where they're incorporating AI. Unfortunately, it's to the point where AI, if it hears, will you show me your hands? It'll just give them, I call it give them the cookie. It gives them the answer without the instructor being able to say, no, maybe they did a bad job in those commands. Please, can you show me your hands? 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 That excessive repetition, we know as trainers, is bad.
Right.
You're stuck in a loop. But because the branches only allow for you to do A, B, C, D, or E, we have no way of showing that real world problem that shows its face. So in the class, we talk about some of those real world problems and how you can, even if the branch isn't there, you can expand from the ones you have to address it.
Love it. And I see this happening, in these environments where you have, like you just said, a branch that doesn't make sense, or it's going to end too quickly. You get the opportunity to kind of pause,
blow it out.
Exactly. Play it all the way out. When you've been doing this for a long time, what would you say right now are some of the best advances in this space that enable less that creative, how do I get beyond the branches? What are industry partners, whether pick a company, doesn't matter which one it is, what are they doing right now that makes our job as trainers easier?
I think that the growth of VR is phenomenal. You have Apex Officer, V-Armed, and please, I'm going to forget somebody. So don't take me wrong on this. And like that question alone, I've tried to research. And when you go through it, I have an entire list of companies doing things from literally smokeless range all the way to this. But I would say that the expansion of VR is a big help because it's immersive. One of the biggest complaints that I hear about the flat range is the lack of immersion. Yes, the 300-degree, 270-degree ranges that are flat still, so to speak, definitely add to the immersion, but it's still not three-dimensional. And there is something to be said about the three-dimensional games. Now, to combat the complaint, because we talk about it, the complaints in the class, we try to go over the bitches. It's a cop class, right? You have to go over the bitches. It's a video game. You look at the study that Grossman's done and other people have done on what video games that have done to inoculate on a flat range. So I contest the video game aspect. So I think that the three-dimensional stuff, where especially the free reign of being able to turn an entire training space into an open world training, is where we're going to get exponentially better. And you got a couple different systems that are doing that now.
Perfect. What are you seeing, the inverse of that question? Where are they still falling short? What would you like to see? And how could industry kind of meet us where we're at in our journey here as trainers more effectively?
I think your biggest problem is as you're trying to make the equipment, there's no way you're going to make the equipment replace the instructor, but you're trying a little too hard, especially when it comes to the AI stuff. It's like everything else in training, whether it's RBT or it's simulator-based training, the instructor is going to make it or absolutely break it. And if you put too much equipment in place of the instructor, I think you run into a problem. So not allowing for that instructor to control is a major thing. I think that's where VR is getting a little better, that they're allowing an instructor to be in the headset and be your role player. So now they're creating the branches on the fly. You're doing RBT and control it. Like I used the term before, you're the FTO and you can control the world around the trainee.
Or like a highly qualified instructor in a red man suit makes all the difference in the world, right? Somebody
100.
who knows what they're doing in that suit. So being the instructor in the system, and those,
Yes.
and I heard you loud and clear, and I hope the industry partners who listen to this do as well, because I completely agree. I think there's a bit of an overstep in trying to solve our problems for us.
With hardware.
talk to us, meet us where we're at. ILEETA is a great place for that. Have these
100.
conversations with us, come to our classes, and we'll meet you in the expo hall and have good conversations. Because I spot on, Josh. That's what I was hoping you would say in that. Okay, so that being said, so we've got the goods and the bads of the systems and that kind of stuff. What, in addition to the work you're doing, what's some of the creative ways that you're seeing trainers, yourself included, your partners, others in the space, doing well?
So the one thing that I would say, if we're keeping this within the simulator aspect of things, I picked this up. I picked this up in my prior classes. Is learning to use your ingenuity. Don't, if you're given a limited system, I've heard of stories of people with, like, smaller systems. They can't afford as much stuff. So they may get something like a smokeless range, which is 100% affordable, even for a sergeant on a shift. Putting that out with the shift, running the simulator the way that it's built, because that's all you can do, right? You're not going to change what you have no control over, but then finding ways to expand it. I've heard stories of, hey, I brought my simulator outside and let them work draws in a car, or you know what, we're going to roll windows down, and the ambushes are always going to be from the left or the right, because obviously, the laser could be affected possibly by the windows, right? Sure. So, hey, I might not be able to do a windshield shot, but I'm going to throw this rinky-dink simulator, or even going a little bit out of the simulator concept of things, but even just the pet targets, reactive laser targets with windows down, and doing officer ambush with distractions, things like that. Phenomenal. I'm a big proponent on what's being done on the smallest scale. Finding ways of just going out of the simulator realm, but actually like finding ways to go and get sergeants to do something so simple as, when a lineup starts, throwing a tourniquet down and going, there's a wound off of this individual. That ingenuity and creativity is what's going to has made and will make police training better. Is those individuals that are spending the time on the day-to-day stuff, not just the once a year, once a quarter stuff. Because let's face it, doesn't matter how much we ask for it, we're not going to get that from the public. It's incumbent on us to just find ways to find the 3-minute drill and spend a little bit of time with our troops on it.
The 3-minute drill, I think, spot on with that. And you and I, we've had conversations in the past similar to this, and so I kind of knew we would be in the same space. But we come from that space of where, as sergeants, you do what you have to do to prepare the people who are there with you, and it's at that level. And I think it's really cool when we see it happening in the training office, because those are the people who are kind of expected to do it. It's even more cool when we see it as that FTO or the sergeant who gets creative, the corporal on the shift who does those things. That ambush thing, I think, is a heck of an idea, right? Like
it was cool to hear about that. It was cool to just see things like, somebody literally made the cutouts, and there was a cutout of I want to say it was like a mailbox, and then there was a cutout where it was supposed to be like a jersey barrier. Put them both on. Now, granted, they're flat, right?
Sure.
But you still got the visual representation when you're running a simulator, for instance. Which one should you go behind if it's gunfire? Well, now I pose a question to you, and this was cool because we all talked about it. Somebody just had a knife, and he took the jersey barrier out. And they were like, oh, we don't have cover. Yes, you do. It's a knife. It's not a gun. Having those conversations, breaking out of the norms, is what we need to really hit. And the video stuff makes it easy. It does.
Right. Absolutely. Well, the video makes it easy. Like you said about the VR, giving that 360 immersive, it's attaching emotion to the learning, and then effective debriefing. Before we get into the debriefing, because I do want to ask you about that a little bit more, the gap that exists between the tactile, actually putting hands on something, and the synthetic training environment. You've mentioned, the role player in Redman. What are some of the other ways that in that synthetic training environment, whether it's a flat screen or VR, that I can put real world skills to test in actually application in that environment? What do you got?
Sky's the limit, but one of the ones that absolutely destroyed our people the first time we ever did this. So we always I think by now using tourniquets is pretty commonplace in law enforcement.
Sure.
Screen goes blank, beyond the blank screen, or if it's a VR, it's an active shooter event, pull the headset off, or if it's RBT, you could do this with RBT too. Put a victim somewhere in a room where you can't give up the suspect yet. And then suddenly you're in that terror. And I will tell you, I'm not going to debate tactics. Some people go, well, I'm going to go help the victim. Stage it to where it is not an easy decision to do, and you got to coach somebody through a tourniquet. And in the debate, when you really think about it, the training of that is phenomenal because you're teaching them how to justify themselves in a reasonable manner. All right. So we're hitting, Graham standards, but it's not all about the use of force. It's about another action that you have to do with saving life. And still, all you got to do is just layer it until it's to the point where you say, I don't know if I can give this up because I can't safely do both things, but I could coach. Ripped our people up when we did that the first time because it's really easy for us to physically do it, but the other stuff. Other things that I've seen done in the past, use of the radio. I've seen actually having to conduct an interview afterwards, like of the victim. Obviously you need to make this realistic. The use of force can't be so crappy that you just got into a gun battle. Now I need you to interview the DB victim that you were originally responding to. Keep it realistic. Right. But it was done. It was either pepper spray or it was with a baton. I think we might have even used the baton because the baton's kind of quirky. You hit a button and it's like, oh, and the person falls down. There's issues with every system, right? Let's just call out the bullshit. And so you could see the mental of the cop kind of like, here we go again. And then when we got done, the blank screen happened because I primed that's the end of it. We literally turned around and suddenly somebody's crying behind them in play.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, yeah, that's your victim. Well, what do you want me to do? Well, it's a domestic. Go.
What would you do? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And sometimes it is that voice that is the what would you do? And then, I got to re-engage here. And so, yeah, love it.
And that's that beyond the blank screen, beyond the branch, because, the branch didn't give you that much when you were going through the video. Very simple. It's, he hit me, he did this. And that's all you may get with simulators. VR, with a good instructor, you can push it past that, but they're still stuck in that video game, which some people say, it's a video game. We can't think that it's realistic. Take the thing off and literally have somebody behind them and actually have it do an interview. And if timing's an issue, because that was always a problem with us, literally when they start talking to the person, what should you do with a victim and a suspect? Separate them. They're in the same room right now. You'd be blown away how many cops, even experienced ones, right after they get done with a simulator, they don't switch out of it. They'll try to do the whole interview with the suspect on the ground in front of them. So you can break so many things. I mean, sky's the limit with this. It's there's so many good instructors as part of ILEETA. There's so many good instructors that come to ILEETA that I've been honored to even humbled to even teach in front of, that could be teaching the class too. Your only barricade is what you allow yourself to stop yourself with when it comes to this. Same with RBT in general.
Right. And that's why I'm excited to have you there to present this. And I know, like, whether it's Redman or whatever, it's always been something that fits your niche. And in this environment, as things are advancing, it's, you're right. There are going to be some great conversations that happen around this in your class and then and beyond the branches.
Nice.
Yeah, see what I make it up for my 2016 comment earlier. So when somebody comes to your class, because we're going to run out of time here if we're not careful.
Sure.
There's so many great options at ILEETA. This, like when you're teaching, there are simultaneously anywhere from like 14 to 18 other classes, maybe actually 20 on one of the sessions, other classes. A lot of decisions to be made. Do I go left or right here? If I have to make a decision whether or not your class is a fit for me, what am I going to get when I come into your class and I leave 4 hours later?
So if you're somebody that's brand spanking new to simulators, what you get is we try to do an overview. It's not geared to any one thing, because that's one of the issues when you start going to a lot of the manufacturers classes. They gear it only to their one product. We try to you're going to walk out with the ability to fit whatever product you can afford, whatever product your chief or your sheriff, whatever your community is giving you. So you will have that. You're going to come out with, I facilitate a lot of discussion in my class. I don't like, I can talk, but I like hearing a lot of other experts in the class talk. So I'm very big in the, what have you guys done and girls done that has worked? So you're going to get ideas on how to go beyond what your system allows you to go beyond, either within the middle of the system, in the middle of the scenario, or whether it's at the end of that blank screen.
Or at the beginning, as you described earlier,
yes,
having to buy and make entry, that's
correct.
part of it. Yeah,
yep,
absolutely.
Correct. And if you're in that, you're more of that senior person, you've been there, you've been doing this, you've gotten a t-shirt. It's gaining more of that exposure. I will tell you that even teaching the class, when I was in ILEETA, the people that were in my class, it's like, ooh, that's great. I'm going to steal that. Unfortunately, with promotion as a lieutenant, I don't get to use it as much as I'd like to, but I usually bring it home and tell the people that have been there, like, oh, I just learned something awesome. Of course you did, Josh. I'm sure you did. So it's a lot of that exposure of finding out where can you expand? Where are the weaknesses? Because let's be honest, we got to admit the faults and the flaws of the systems we have. That's the only way we're going to be able to work within them the right way. So as a senior person, somebody with experience, you're going to get a lot of that from here, and an ability to exchange ideas.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today and having this conversation. If somebody's out there that is looking for that development in the simulator synthetic training environment, this is a great class for you. But I would also encourage those in industry. Josh and so many others like him at ILEETA are the right people to be talking to for where we go next and how we get there. So look for them. They'll be looking for you. With that said, Josh, you mind sticking around? I got a couple other quick questions for you after we end the recording here.
Yeah.